You think you are just walking out into your own green grass, breathing in the fresh morning air, completely and utterly clueless that you just stepped right into a tiny, feathered war zone. Meet Kevin. Kevin is a 38-year-old graphic designer living in a cozy, quiet, tree-lined suburb just outside of Portland, Oregon. He likes his craft beer, his indie rock playlists, and his beautiful, lush, carefully manicured backyard garden. For months and months, Kevin had been working on a very specific, deeply personal project. It was his ultimate weekend escape, a personal mission to turn his little patch of suburban green grass into the ultimate, peaceful sanctuary for the local Pacific Northwest wildlife. He didn't just throw out some cheap birdseed on the ground. Oh, no. Kevin went all out. He researched the exact dietary needs of every bird species in Oregon. He bought the expensive, heavy, handcrafted cedarwood bird feeders. He bought the specialized, squirrel-proof tube feeders, and he mounted them perfectly on high metal poles. He stocked them with absolutely nothing but the good stuff: high-grade, high-fat, black oil sunflower seeds, organic suet cakes infused with dried mealworms, and premium, imported Niger thistle. He even installed a heated, circulating bird bath with a little mechanical bubbler to create the gentle, rhythmic sound of moving water, because he read online that the sound of trickling water acts like a magnet for migrating songbirds. And, man, did it work. It worked, beautifully. Within just a few short weeks, his backyard had transformed into a bustling, singing, fluttering paradise. It was like living inside a nature documentary. Every single morning, he had a flock of black-capped chickadees dancing along the cedar fence line, downy woodpeckers rhythmically and enthusiastically drumming away on the trunk of the old birch tree, sleek, slate-colored juncos hopping across the mulch, and a stunning, bright crimson, male northern cardinal who ruled over the highest branches of the oak tree like a tiny, royal king. Kevin absolutely loved it. It became his sacred morning ritual. He would sit out on his wooden back porch, slowly sipping his freshly brewed morning coffee, watching the wildlife interact, feeling like he was completely, deeply at one with nature. The birds in the yard grew to know him. They began to recognize his daily patterns, his voice, and his calm, predictable movements. They genuinely trusted his presence. They would land on the feeders just a few feet away from his chair, entirely unbothered, completely relaxed by his slow movements. He was, in his own mind, their ultimate, protective, backyard ally. He felt a deep sense of pride in it. Until Saturday morning. It was a chilly, brisk, mid-April day. The kind of spring morning where the morning dew is thick on the grass, and you can see a tiny puff of your own breath in the cold air. This timing is crucial, because April is the peak of the avian breeding season, a time when bird hormones are sky-high and territorial instincts are tuned to absolute maximum levels. Kevin was getting ready to go outside and refill the main hopper feeders for the busy weekend ahead. He walked over to his hallway closet, reached inside, and pulled out a brand new, heavyweight, double-insulated fleece hoodie. It was a birthday gift from his brother, which he hadn't worn yet. It was a bold, bright, saturated, fire engine red. Now, physically, it was incredibly warm, thick, and comfortable. But visually, it was absolutely blinding. It was a shock of pure, high-contrast color. Kevin zipped it up to his chin, flipped the hood back, grabbed his giant, heavy plastic jug of premium birdseed, and stepped out through the sliding glass door, onto the wooden deck. Instantly, the peaceful morning chorus ground to a dead, echoing, sudden halt. The silence was absolutely deafening. Up in the thick branches of the old oak tree, that beautiful, majestic, male cardinal went completely, stone-cold rigid. Now, you have to realize, to Kevin, he was just a regular guy trying to stay warm while doing a nice, helpful chore for his feathered friends. But to that cardinal, Kevin was suddenly broadcasting a massive, giant, moving threat signal. You see, in the bird world, a bright, highly saturated red does not just mean a stop sign. It does not just mean a warning label. It triggers something incredibly deep, primal, and intensely, fiercely aggressive. In multiple different bird species across North America, bright red is the exact color of a rival male. When you wear that specific color into their territory during breeding season, you are not just wearing a piece of clothing. You are wearing a direct, psychological challenge to their entire home, their nest, and their survival. It is a challenge that millions of years of brutal evolution have programmed them to fight back against, immediately, forcefully, without a second thought. That cardinal's brain completely bypassed all past logic. It didn't see Kevin, the nice, gentle human guy who buys the expensive organic seeds. It completely forgot the months of safe, peaceful interactions. Its tiny eyes locked onto that massive, moving block of bright, vibrant red, and its neural pathways instantly went into absolute, chaotic overdrive. In a split second, the bird's brain was screaming. Red object. Large. Moving in my space. Threat. Competitor. Invader. Enemy. Before Kevin could even unscrew the plastic lid of his seed jug, he heard a sharp, metallic, aggressive chip. 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 It didn't sound like a normal, happy bird call. It sounded angry, frantic, and filled with panic. Suddenly. Swoosh. A flash of bright feathers zipped right past his left ear, so incredibly close that Kevin actually felt the physical wind from the wings hit his skin. Kevin gasped, stumbling backward against the house, dropping his grip on the seed container. It was the cardinal. It had completely, deliberately dive-bombed him. The little bird pulled up sharply, looped around in midair, and perched itself on a low tree branch, just 10 feet away from Kevin's face. Its chest was puffed out to maximum size, its head crest was raised high and sharp, and it began singing a loud, incredibly rapid, aggressive, territorial war song. It was literally shaking with pure, raw adrenaline. Kevin was completely baffled. He stood frozen against the wall. "Hey, buddy, it's just me. Look, I've got food," he mumbled quietly, taking one small, slow step forward, hoping his voice would calm the situation. That was a huge mistake. A bad idea. The moment he moved that giant red hoodie, a pair of American robins, who were peacefully foraging for worms down near the low bushes, joined the fight. Robins, as you might know, have those bright, red-orange breasts, which they use as a visual billboard to mark their own turf. To them, Kevin's giant, moving red torso was like a massive, personal insult, a loud, disrespectful declaration of war across the entire neighborhood. They started screeching their high-pitched alarm calls, hopping frantically from branch to branch, kicking up loose pieces of dark mulch, and pumping their tails up and down in total, defensive, absolute anger. The entire backyard was rapidly turning into an arena of chaos. Then came the hummingbirds. A tiny, ruby-throated hummingbird. A creature that literally weighs less than a single pocket nickel, came tearing out of the sky from nowhere. Now, hummingbirds have a highly complex, conflicted relationship with the color red. On one hand, red usually means a sweet, nectar-filled flower, which is their primary food source. But on the other hand, male hummingbirds are evolutionary hotheads, fiercely territorial over their feeding zones. When this tiny bird realized this giant moving red object wasn't a flower, but an intruder standing near its feeder, it went completely ballistic. It targeted the red fleece. It started buzzing Kevin's face like a miniature, angry, high-velocity fighter jet, making high-pitched, furious clicking noises, and darting back and forth, up and down, right in front of his eyes with terrifying, erratic speed. Kevin completely panicked. The sheer psychological pressure of a dozen backyard birds turning on him all at once was too much to handle. He dropped the heavy jug of birdseed, watched it spill all over the deck boards, scrambled backward on his heels, and practically fell backward through his own sliding glass door, slamming the thick glass shut right in front of his face. He stood there, inside the safety of his kitchen, his chest heaving, his heart hammering against his ribs, looking out the window in utter, complete, stunned disbelief. Outside, his peaceful, hard-earned wildlife sanctuary was in absolute, total shambles. The gentle little chickadees and the tiny white-breasted nuthatches had entirely vanished into the deep safety of the dense woods, frozen in sheer terror by the sudden chaos. The blue jays were perched high up in the pine trees, sounding the ultimate predator alarm, screaming Jay. Jay. Jay at the top of their lungs, warning every animal within a mile that danger was present. And that male cardinal, that beautiful bird he had spent months admiring, was sitting right on the porch railing, staring directly through the glass pane, glaring straight into Kevin's eyes, ready to defend his territory to the absolute end. Kevin spent the next 3 days testing this phenomenon. He simply didn't want to believe it. It felt too wild, too sci-fi, too completely crazy. How could a simple piece of clothing completely erase months of friendship and trust? It didn't make logical sense to a human brain. But science doesn't care about human feelings. Birds are intensely visual creatures. Their survival depends almost entirely on processing color signals accurately and instantly. Every single time Kevin stepped out onto that deck wearing the bright red fleece, the exact same, immediate reaction occurred. The yard went completely silent. The atmosphere turned heavy and hostile. The birds became incredibly skittish, profoundly angry, or they just vanished into thin air entirely. By wearing that single, casual clothing choice, Kevin had accidentally, single-handedly reset years of earned community trust. He had introduced visual chaos into a system that relies on color for basic survival. He had disrupted their evolutionary coding, mimicking the exact visual cues of a dangerous threat or an aggressive competitor. He wasn't their friendly, seed-bearing neighbor anymore. He was the ultimate, terrifying invader. The giant monster in red. It took him a whole week, a full 7 days of switching back to dull, muted, earth-tone olive greens, dark charcoal grays, and soft browns. Sitting perfectly still, completely motionless on the deck chair, before the birds finally realized the danger had passed. Their threat assessment systems slowly cooled down, they reassessed the environment, and they realized their safe, reliable human had finally come back. So, the very next time you open up your bedroom closet and you casually reach for that bright red shirt, or that favorite crimson baseball hat, just remember. You might think you are just picking out a stylish, comfortable outfit for the day, but to the hidden, highly sensitive eyes watching you from the trees, you might just be, accidentally, declaring war.